So picture this. You're standing in your kitchen.
Right.
You're in the middle of a sentence trying to have a completely normal adult conversation, and suddenly, out of nowhere, it hits you.
The dreaded chant.
Exactly. Mom, 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 mom.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It is a relentless, unrelenting siege. And, if you've ever been in that moment trying to talk to your partner or, I don't know, the bank on the phone, you know that immediate visceral spike in your blood pressure.
Oh, absolutely. It triggers a real physical reaction.
It feels like a high-stakes hostage negotiation, except
the person demanding your attention is, 3 feet tall?
3 feet tall and holding a plastic dinosaur.
Exactly.
So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is to decode one of the most universally testing experiences of interacting with young children, which is, of course, the constant interruptions.
Right, the nonstop tugging on the shirt.
Yeah. We are going to completely reframe how you view that exact high-stress moment. And better yet, we're giving you 3 heavily tested tools to handle it.
Which is so needed. And the source material we're pulling from today for this deep dive is just incredibly practical.
It really is.
We're looking at a script and some field notes from Ellie. She's an early childhood educator and the owner of GrowVille Early Learning out in North Vancouver.
A literal expert in the trenches.
Exactly. She spends her entire life immersed in this exact dynamic. I mean, managing a room full of young kids who, let's face it, all want to speak at the exact same time.
Sounds like chaos.
It can be. But she brings a level of trench-tested insight that it really moves us way beyond those abstract parenting theories.
Right. So before we can actually stop the interruptions, we have to understand what is happening under the hood biologically.
Get the why behind it.
Because Ellie's notes make this massive distinction right out of the gate. We tend to view a kid interrupting us as a behavioral issue, right? Like a lack of discipline.
Which is our adult bias showing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she points out that this is actually a biological hardware issue.
Yeah. As adults, we constantly project our own motivations and, capabilities onto children.
Right. We expect them to act like mini adults.
Exactly. Like if an adult interrupts you 4 times in a row, they are being aggressively rude. They're making a conscious choice to talk over you.
Yeah, that's just bad manners.
But toddlers simply aren't wired to make that choice. The part of the brain responsible for patience, for holding back an urge, for regulating self-control.
The prefrontal cortex.
You got it, the prefrontal cortex. It is incredibly slow to develop.
Yeah.
We are talking about a physical maturation process that, it takes well into a person's 20s to fully complete.
Wow, their 20s. So, okay, let's unpack this. It's like their brain has this lightning-fast fiber optic internet connection for generating new thoughts.
Oh, absolutely, thanks to a very active imagination.
Right, but they have absolutely zero RAM to store those thoughts. The temporary memory buffer, it just doesn't exist yet.
That's a really great way to put it.
So if they don't say that thought out loud this exact second, the thought is gone. The system crashes.
The RAM analogy is actually quite scientifically accurate when we look at working memory in toddlers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Working memory is that cognitive system that holds information temporarily for processing. And in a young child, that capacity is remarkably small.
Like almost non-existent.
Basically. When a thought pops into their mind, it's driven by the limbic system.
Which is the emotional impulsive center, right?
Exactly. So to them, that thought feels overwhelmingly urgent. Now, the prefrontal cortex is supposed to act as the brake pedal, saying, hold on, mom is talking, store this thought for a minute.
But the brakes are out.
The brakes haven't even been installed yet. Those neural pathways, the literal insulation around the nerves called myelin that speeds up those brake pedal signals, it just hasn't formed.
So to the child, the internal experience isn't, I am going to maliciously interrupt this adult.
Not at all.
Ellie actually translates their inner monologue in the notes, and it's simply, quote, I had a thought, and I absolutely must say it immediately.
It's pure, unadulterated impulse. It is a fundamental lack of inhibitory control.
So understanding this changes how we interpret the whole event. They aren't trying to break the rules of conversation.
No, they literally do not possess the biological equipment to follow them yet.
Okay, so if their brains literally lack the hardware for patience, are parents just doomed? Are we just destined to be interrupted until the child's prefrontal cortex finishes baking years later?
Well, no, thankfully not.
Good, because that's a nice theory on paper. But let's be real. When I'm on a critical phone call, maybe, I don't know, disputing a charge on my credit card.
Always a stressful call.
Always. And someone is yanking on my shirt, yelling my name, It is really hard not to view that as bad behavior. It feels like defiance.
Of course it does.
So how does a parent or caregiver actually bridge the gap between knowing logically that the kid's brain is under construction and the very real, desperate adult need to just finish a single sentence?
Right. Well, the physical reaction you described earlier, that blood pressure spike,
Yeah, the hostage negotiation feeling.
that is your own amygdala reacting to a perceived threat or stressor. When we label a child's action as bad behavior or rudeness, we trigger our own defensive fight or flight response. We get angry.
Which doesn't help anyone.
No. So the biological reality we just discussed isn't an excuse to let kids run wild. It's actually a tool for the adult's emotional regulation.
Oh, interesting.
Ellie introduces this as a necessary mindset shift. We have to fundamentally change the label in our own heads from rude behavior to developmental stage.
Okay, so by relabeling it, I'm essentially tricking my own brain out of a stress response.
Exactly.
If I see it as a developmental stage, I'm not being attacked, I'm just witnessing a biological process.
And that perspective shift is profoundly relieving. It moves the caregiver from a place of emotional frustration.
Like, why are they doing this to me?
Right, which makes you useless as a teacher in that moment. It moves you from there to a place of objective guidance. You realize, oh, their brain is currently trying to learn how the mechanics of a conversation work.
So the question becomes, how do I guide them through this?
Yes. Our job isn't to punish the lack of hardware. Our job is to gradually teach the software so the brain knows what to do as the hardware comes online.
I love that. But here's where it gets really interesting, because that still leaves me on the phone with the bank with a kid yelling my name.
True.
The mindset shift keeps me calm, which is fantastic, but it doesn't solve the immediate triage problem. We need a way to handle the behavior in the moment that doesn't just involve ignoring them. Because, I mean, from my experience, ignoring an urgent toddler just results in a significantly louder toddler.
Oh, ignoring them completely backfires. It heightens their biological panic.
Because they think you didn't hear them.
Exactly. Their urgent thought isn't being acknowledged, so the limbic system just dials up the volume. And this is where Ellie's first practical tool from the daycare floor comes in.
Okay, lay it on me.
Since we know we have to actively teach them how to wait, but we also need to protect the adult's conversation, we need a physical tether.
A physical tether.
Yeah. At GrowVille, they utilize what they call the hand-on-arm method.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
I'm talking the kid runs up and says, Mom, what do I do?
You don't say shh. You don't hold up a finger. And you definitely don't stop your conversation.
Right.
Instead, you gently take the child's hand and you place it on your arm, or you place your hand over theirs on your leg.
Oh, wow.
You maintain your verbal conversation with the other adult, but you maintain physical contact with the child.
I love the mechanics of that. It's brilliant because it bypasses the verbal processing centers entirely.
It does.
Like, if you stop and say, please wait a minute, you are asking a highly stimulated toddler to process language, comprehend time, and regulate their emotion all at once.
Which is way too much cognitive load for them.
Right, but by using touch, it's like giving them a physical read receipt on a text message.
A read receipt. That is exactly what it is.
You're silently telling their nervous system, message received, currently processing, please hold.
And deep pressure touch actually has a physiological effect too. It can stimulate the release of oxytocin and help lower cortisol levels in both the child and the adult.
So it literally calms everyone down.
Yes. It replaces the verbal engagement the child is seeking with a physical connection. It answers that urgent biological need to be acknowledged, but it deliberately avoids rewarding the interruption with your conversational attention.
You're showing them, I feel you here, I know you need me, and I am not abandoning you.
While simultaneously holding the boundary of your own interaction.
That is so smart. Okay, so that physical touch is incredible for triage in the heat of the moment. But it feels like, a temporary patch.
It is a management tool, yes.
Right. We still have a kid with zero patience hardware. If we rely entirely on the physical tether, we're just going to be walking around with kids permanently attached to our arms every time we speak.
Which is not the end goal.
No.
Yes.
So how do we actually upgrade their system so they don't need that read receipt every single time?
Well, you have to build the underlying muscle of patience. And the crucial caveat in Ellie's approach here is that you cannot build that muscle during a high-stress event.
Oh, that makes sense. You don't teach a kid to swim during a hurricane.
Exactly. You have to treat waiting as a dedicated skill that requires practice in low-stakes, calm environments.
So like Tuesday afternoon in the living room, Not during the chaotic rush out the door for school.
Precisely. During a normal, low-stakes interaction, you intentionally set up a waiting scenario.
How does that look?
You might say to the child, I'm going to finish reading this paragraph, or I'm going to finish this sentence, and then it's your turn to talk.
Okay.
You are establishing a clear, predictable boundary. But here's the critical detail. At first, that wait might only be 5 seconds.
Wait, 5 seconds? That seems, honestly, almost entirely pointless.
It sounds short, I know.
Yeah, because we usually expect kids to wait a few minutes. Just wait a minute, honey. 5 seconds. It's just taking one deep breath. Is that actually doing anything for their brain?
It is doing everything for their brain. By dramatically lowering the expectation to just 5 seconds, the adult is directly matching the biological reality of the toddler's working memory buffer.
Matching the RAM.
Exactly. Remember the RAM analogy. A few minutes to a child whose thoughts feel urgently explosive is a literal eternity.
Right. The thought will vanish, they will get frustrated, and the whole exercise ends in a meltdown.
When you ask them to wait 2 minutes, you are asking their brain to do something it physically cannot sustain. You're basically asking them to bench press 200 pounds on their first day at the gym.
Oh, wow. So the real secret here is actually training the adult to drastically lower their expectations of time.
Yes.
We have to recalibrate our adult clocks to toddler time. We give them a weight they can actually lift, which is 5 seconds, so they experience the feeling of success.
Because the goal isn't the duration of the wait. The goal is completing the sequence.
Okay, what's the sequence?
The sequence is I have an urge to speak, I pause, I hold the thought, and then I get my turn.
Oh, I see.
If the pause is too long, the sequence breaks, the kid loses the thought, and the learning is lost.
Makes total sense.
By starting with 5 seconds, you guarantee they complete the cycle, and over weeks and months, that 5-second window slowly and naturally expands. It goes to 10 seconds, then 30 seconds, as those neural pathways strengthen.
But, I've tried making kids wait before, and the problem I always run into is closing the loop.
What do you mean?
Like, I'll finish my sentence, look back at them, and they've either completely forgotten what they wanted to say, or they've wandered off, or they're just frustrated.
Right.
What happens after those excruciating 5 seconds are up?
Right.
How do we cement that this was a successful interaction?
Well, what happens next is what permanently wires this new habit into the developing brain. It is the feedback loop.
The feedback loop.
Yeah. When the child manages to hold that thought for 5 seconds, the adult has to explicitly and immediately acknowledge this success.
Okay, so what do you say?
Ellie suggests saying something very specific, something like, "Thank you for waiting while I finish talking."
Notice how specific that is. It's not just a generic, good job.
Exactly.
It is labeling the exact behavior we want to see repeated.
Because children, like all humans, really naturally repeat behaviors that receive attention and positive reinforcement.
Sure.
When you give them a generic good job, they don't necessarily map that praise to the act of holding their tongue.
Right. They might think, good job standing there, or something.
Exactly. But by naming the action, "Thank you for waiting," you are solidifying the connection in their brain between the discomfort of patience and the reward of your focused attention.
It's like teaching them the rules of the court.
Yes. If our conversation is a tennis match, thanking them for waiting is teaching them how to play.
I like to think about forming these new habits like walking through a field of tall grass.
Oh, I like that.
The first time you walk through, the grass is high, it's difficult, you have to push your way through. That's the toddler trying to wait for the very first time.
Yeah.
There is no clear path.
It's a struggle.
But every time you successfully complete that sequence, they wait, you finish, you thank them, you are walking that exact same route again. You are trampling the grass down.
Yeah, wearing a path.
And eventually, after enough repetitions, it becomes a clear, easy dirt trail. You are physically building a neural pathway for conversation turn-taking.
The tall grass analogy captures the neuroplasticity of early childhood perfectly. At Ellie's daycare, they see this play out constantly.
I bet.
When children feel heard and supported through that feedback loop, their ability to wait improves surprisingly quickly. They begin to understand the rhythm of human interaction. I speak, you listen. You speak, I listen.
You are shaping their understanding of a highly complex social dynamic through very clear, bite-sized moments of positive feedback.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? When we pull all the way back and look at this roadmap, it's actually incredibly empowering.
It really is.
We are taking a moment of high-stress conflict, that dreaded repetitive mom that spikes our blood pressure, and we are entirely diffusing it.
We're taking the fight out of it.
Right. Instead of getting locked into a battle of wills with a 3-year-old, which, let's be honest, is a battle no adult has ever truly won,
Never.
we're turning the interaction into a little high five for their developing prefrontal cortex.
We've traced the biological why. We demystified the lack of impulse control and understood the limits of their working memory.
Yep.
We've established the necessary mindset shift, moving the adult out of an emotional fight or flight response by recognizing it as a developmental stage rather than intentional rudeness.
And we got the actual tactical playbook now. We have the hand-on-arm tether for immediate physical reassurance that, bypasses the verbal processing delay.
Right.
We have the 5-second micro-patience practice to build the muscle without breaking the sequence. And finally, the power of specific acknowledgement to trample down the tall grass and build that permanent neural pathway.
It is a comprehensive system that respects both the biological limits of the child and the practical needs of the adult.
And here's why this matters to you, the listener, even if you don't have kids of your own or, you don't work in a daycare. Understanding the mechanics of a developmental brain offers an absolute masterclass in everyday empathy.
It really does.
The next time you're in a grocery store or at a park or on a flight and you see a frantic parent dealing with an interrupting, yelling toddler, you aren't going to just see a poorly behaved kid ruining the peace and quiet.
No, you're going to see a prefrontal cortex in active training.
Exactly. You'll see the biology at work, and you might even have a little more grace for the adult trying to manage it.
It fundamentally changes how you view the people around you. And, looking at this dynamic raises a very compelling point about our own behavior, too. Something really worth sitting with. We've established today that a toddler's inability to wait stems from an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, right? Which makes every single passing thought feel intensely, overwhelmingly urgent.
The thought arrives, and it must be discharged immediately.
The ultimate lack of a brake pedal.
Right.
Well, consider our own lives for a moment. Think about the adults you work with or your friends. How often do we, as adults with fully developed brains, act the exact same way with our digital communication?
Oh, man.
Oui.
Firing off texts while someone is talking to us.
Sending Slack messages, dropping emails, or, firing off text the very second a thought pops into our heads, demanding instant replies.
We really do that.
We get agitated if someone doesn't text back in 3 minutes. We double text. We interrupt their digital space because we had an urgent thought and we didn't want to hold it in our own working memory.
Wow.
It makes you wonder, have our devices and this expectation of hyperconnectivity actually reverted us all back to the toddler interruption phase?
Yeah.
Have we outsourced our impulse control to our smartphones?
That is a deeply uncomfortable and honestly entirely accurate point.
It's true, though, isn't it?
We are all just walking around sending virtual mom, mom, mom texts all day long because we don't want to wait 5 seconds either. It really is something to chew on the next time you feel the urge to follow up on an email you sent 20 minutes ago.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you can carry this new perspective and maybe a little extra empathy for the toddlers and the adults acting like toddlers into whatever interactions you have today.
Absolutely.
The next time you find yourself in the middle of that kitchen hostage negotiation, remember, you don't need to yell and you don't need to surrender. You just need a hand on the arm, an understanding of the biology, and 5 seconds of patience.